Union, Kentucky in the 90s was a small, quiet town, until a seemingly normal day turned into a nightmare for all families around. The lives of the Shrout family were suddenly taken without warning. The Shrout family was picture perfect. Walter and Rebecca Shrout were college sweethearts and had 3 children, Clay, Kristen, and Lauren. All 5 of them were active in the Florence Christian Church. Kristen and Lauren were active in band, tumbling, and showing horses. Their only son, Clay, was a hard-working honors student whom many loved. Teachers, friends, and parents knew him as thoughtful and kind. In 1993, Clay began to attend church less frequently, and his closest peers noticed odd behavior changes. Creative writing assignments became stories about death. He began a large collection of pocket knives and brass knuckles and was constantly reading the Anarchist's Cookbook whenever he got the chance. He fell into a deep depression and was introduced to drugs by some of his close friends because they thought he could cope with his pain. This perfect honors student started to lose motivation and failed his junior spring term of high school. When he failed to submit a large assignment in English class, his parents were contacted, which infuriated him. So much to the point he told a classmate that he wanted to shoot their teacher. In result of his failing grades, Walter and Rebecca confiscated his keys, phone, and collection of weapons. This resulted in him snapping. The morning of May 26, 1994, Clay woke at 5 a.m. to ultimately commit the most heinous crime Union, Kentucky has seen. He retrieved and loaded a Colt Mustang 380 gun that belonged to his father. Clay made his way into his parents' room as they were still sleeping and shot his mother between the eyes, killing her instantly. Next, he shot his father. His next victim was his sister, Kristen. He made his way into her room and shot her in the chest. On the way to his last victim, he heard a noise coming from his parents' bedroom. Walter was still alive, struggling to get out of bed. Clay shot him 2 more times. His youngest sister, Lauren, got out of bed to see what noises she was hearing. Clay brought her back to her bed and calmed her down. Once she closed her eyes, he shot her in the top of the head. He left his home on Tiburon Drive at 5:45 a.m. and stopped at the nearest gas station to get a drink. As he was passing by another customer, he muttered under his breath, "You have no idea what I just did." At 8:30 a.m., Clay arrived at Larry A. Ryle High School and was 5 minutes late for his trigonometry class, unusual for the honors student. He enters Carol Kanabrowski's classroom, room 203, and says to her, "Someone has gone crazy and held a class hostage this morning." When she asks who, all he says is, "It's me." After authorities were notified about the hostage situation, the school was placed in a lockdown and the assistant principal came to gauge the situation. When asked to leave the room, Clay refused. His first words to the police officer that day were, "I've had a bad day. I've killed my family." At 8:52 a.m., the situation ended after he gave up his weapon. Clay Shrout was charged and pleaded guilty to the murders of Walter, Rebecca, Kristen, and Lauren Shrout. The charges for his hostage-taking were dropped to avoid the death penalty. There was no trial, but the judge declared him guilty but mentally ill. Northern Kentucky went silent for days, mourning the loss of a wonderful family. My grandma, who lives only a few doors down from the Shrout home, says, "It still gives me an eerie feeling driving past their home, knowing what he did." I first heard this story at a young age because of my mom. My mom was best friends with Lauren Shrout at the time of her murder. Still, to this day, my mom mourns the loss of her friend and what her life could have been. I see Lauren all the time. I see women who look like what she would look like today. Even the smallest, quietest Kentucky towns have their own horrific stories. For CVM 320, I'm Cadence Lindenburger.